Okay guys, now we are going to talk about the frequency of actions. Using present simple tense, we will talk about frequency of actions. What is frequency? How often do you brush your teeth? How often means frequency. For example, if I say, how often do you brush your teeth? And you say, I brush my teeth twice a day. Right? How often do you go to Islamabad? I go to Islamabad after every 6 months. Frequency. How often do you eat during the day? Say, I eat 3 times a day. Right? How often do you watch TV? I watch TV once a day, especially at night. How often do you? Okay, if I ask you, for example, how often do you go to foreign countries? You say, I go to foreign countries after 6 to 8 months. Something like that. How often do you? Right? Now, I will ask you some questions first with how often do you, and then you will ask me some questions. Let's start with you. And again, we are learning present simple tense. It's all about present simple today.
Frequency. Huh?
This is frequency of something, of action, frequency of action. So, how often do you meet your friends?
I meet my friends 3 times a week.
3 times a week. Very good. And try to give answer in one go. I meet my friends 3 times a week. How often do you tell lies?
I
You say, I don't tell lies.
I don't tell lies.
Yeah, I don't know what a lie is, huh? Big lie. Okay. All right. Let's go on. How often do you eat during the day?
Twice.
All right. And how often do you take rest?
Um,
You can
One
say
ti-
after
one
every
time in
2-3
the day.
hours after, yeah.
one time in the day after.
Okay, I always take rest once a day.
Once a day.
Okay, how often do you go to the museum?
After 4 or 3 months.
Okay, now when you want to say after 3 to 4 months, it's better to say, I hardly go to the museum. If I say, how often do you go to the museum? I rarely go to the museum. I hardly go to the museum. But if I say, how often do you visit your friends? I frequently visit my friends. Or I visit my friends very often. Very often and frequently. Right? So you can use them as well. Right? Now it's your turn, please. How often do you go for eating out? Or how often do you eat out?
Almost weekly.
Almost weekly. Or you can say almost every other week. Right? How often do you watch movies? Now you will make complete sentence. I watch movies once a week, or I watch movies every night, like that. So how often do you watch movies?
Generally, I don't watch movies. I watch talks and something like that. Documentaries.
All right, you can say I rarely watch movies, or I hardly watch any movies because I watch the talks, especially TED Talks are my favorite, something like that. Okay, how often do you take your children out?
I take my children out weekly.
Okay, I take my children out weekly. How often do you visit the northern areas of your country?
Twice in a year.
Twice a year. So you can say, I visit the northern areas of my country twice a year. Okay, that's great. Now let's come over here. So, how often do you visit your relatives?
Once a week.
Okay, now complete sentence.
I visit
yeah.
my relatives once a week.
Okay, so you can add, I always visit my relatives once a week. How often do you go to the museum?
Hardly,
Once a year?
Once a year.
Yeah, say, I hardly go to the museum, or otherwise you can say, I go to the museum perhaps once a year.
Once a year.
Right? How often do you spend time with your family?
Daily.
Yeah, now
Daily.
full answer.
I
yeah,
spend my time with my family
daily. Or
daily.
you can say, I spend time with my family
family
on the daily basis.
on the daily basis.
Or every evening, I spend my time with my family.
family.
How often do you drink water?
4 or 5 times a
4
day.
to 5 times a day. Is
Yeah,
this
day.
all clear? How often do you? Yeah, you. How often do you use your mobile? 24/7? No. So, how often do you use your mobile?
At night.
I use my
I-
mobile mostly at
at
night.
night.
Mostly at night. Okay. How often do you cook?
I cook
3 times a
times.
day. Yeah, I cook 3 times a day.
in the
Very
day.
good. How often do you watch TV programs?
I watch movie programs at night. At night.
Okay, I only watch TV programs at
At
night.
night.
How often do you watch TV programs? I only watch TV programs
Yes,
at
at
night.
night.
Okay, that's very good. One last question. How often do you go to the park?
Weekly. I go to the park weekly.
I go to the park
Park
weekly,
weekly.
or I go to the park every week.
Every
Right? So this time we learned how often do you. Now this time you guys are going to ask me one question with how often do you.
How often you
Do you?
do you teach English?
I teach English twice a week. Yeah. Please you.
How often you visit the northern area?
Okay, how often do you visit? Do you?
how often do you visit
the northern
north-
areas?
the northern areas?
Sometimes once a year, otherwise twice a year. Right? Yeah, let's go on.
How often that you drink soft drinks?
How often do you take soft drinks? How often do you take soft drinks?
Soft.
I occasionally take soft drinks. Occasionally means if there is a wedding or party, or then otherwise I don't drink. So how often do you take soft drinks? I occasionally take soft drinks. Occasionally. Yeah, your turn.
How often you conduct spoken English classes?
How often do you conduct spoken English classes? Okay, how often you conduct will be wrong. How often do you conduct spoken English classes? I conduct spoken English classes twice a week. Okay,
I mean to say in a year.
in a year, probably this is the first time we offered after a long time, like almost after 5-6 years we started spoken English classes. Okay, so you can use how often, and this is just the common use of present simple tense. You can use how often with that, right? Thank you.